But now I'm joined by Kevin Green to help me set up the action today as we are seeing markets snap back, of course, after some pretty positive developments over the weekend, especially, I'm sure, in the front of U.S. versus China. Beijing versus Washington, Kevin, has really been our theme, and a lot of, I think, why we blamed the recent sell-off on Friday, of course, on some of these geopolitical tensions. So sort of walk us through your thinking on the latest activity that we're seeing to kick off this week.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if you kind of look at the price action on Friday, obviously that drop within the S&P 500 down over 2%, as well as the NASDAQ was really kind of that catalyst kicking it off was the tariff talks. But Jenny, you can also make the case that we have been making higher highs, higher lows, and the market may have been looking for a reason to sell off. And sometimes when you get a catalyst, that's really an opportunity for a lot of traders as well as investors to try to de-risk, especially going into the weekend. And that's exactly what we saw, really kind of closing on the lows. And some news after hours as far as the tariff implementation also then dragged down the E-mini S&P futures even lower, about 0.7% or so lower after the close on Friday. But we are seeing a bounce back today. I would say that this is probably considered to be a little bit of a dead cat bounce, at least for now, until we start breaking some of the upper areas of resistance. And if you're kind of looking at it from a technical standpoint, that 20-period moving average for the S&P 500 is going to be very key, which is sitting at around 6,667 at this point as we start the market. But we are seeing a nice little bounce back. Chips are doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, a lot of that tariff risk was also predicated on China restricting, or actually, let's just say restricting for the most part here, the rare earth minerals, which could also impact the semiconductor sector. So you are seeing companies like Seagate, Micron, as well as others moving to the upside. I think the big risk that you have, though, today, Jenny, is we have this bounce back in the futures market. We open up the regular session. You have people selling into strength, and that could actually be something that does occur today, barring any type of further good headlines coming from the White House or even from some Fed members that are going to be speaking later on today.
Okay, so talk to me through the movement we've seen now with materials. I know you mentioned some of the rare earths, which was part of, I think, hugely the reason we saw the unwinding on Friday. But as far as materials, we actually saw a pretty decent rally now this morning. So what do you think about the material sector, as well as, staples have also been a recent standout?
Yeah, I would say for materials, obviously, that's going to be the tailwind of the U.S. government actually trying to either gain equity stake within these industries or within these companies, and also some of the deals like what's being announced, the Pentagon trying to purchase some of these rare earth minerals as well, which is actually pushing a lot of these stocks to the upside. If you kind of look at the overall dynamic within the rare earth mineral space here, it's not the fact that we do not have these resources here in the United States, it's the fact that we can't really process them. That's actually going to be the bottleneck over the next couple of years. And I think the administration also acknowledges that when you're looking at these trade deals and what we can threaten against China, we also have to be mindful that we're not really able to kind of offload some of that processing capabilities elsewhere in the world. China really holds the majority of that. They process around 75% of all rare earth minerals at this point in time here. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of a give and take. We are seeing those the rare earth mineral stocks actually pushing to the upside. MP Materials up a significant portion here today. And then you also have the AI trade just in general, and you're also seeing these utility stocks rising to the upside as well. Bloom Energy, sounds like there was another deal to be done there. They're moving up around 25%. And the staples themselves are a little bit of a lower beta trade, meaning that they are less susceptible to the fluctuations of the impact or the volatility when it comes to the S&P 500. So that could also be a little bit of a flight to safety trade that individuals may be looking at in the event that we still have higher implied volatility within the market, which we do. That today, right now, the VIX is sitting at around 20. You're looking at around a 1.28% implied move to the upside or downside. So those defensive, low beta sectors, utilities, staples might be a safe haven, at least for now, until we see how this tariff battle between the United States and China kind of fizzles out here.
Okay, and so talk to me through the latest of gold here, as we've seen gold be continuously a standout, as we are also seeing a pretty decent pop this morning. Obviously, pre-market up another 2.4% as far as the futures products are concerned.
Yeah, so we are trading at around 4,100 at this point when you're looking at the futures for gold here. This has been not only a risk off, but also a risk on trade. And I think it's been benefiting a little bit more over the last month and a half or 2 months with a risk on type of market, that FOMO feeling that's taking place. We do know that central banks continue to buy gold. We also know that there is some potential inflationary risk here over the next couple of months, especially if we cut rates aggressively over the next 6 months as well. And then you also have the backdrop of the government shutdown as well as government spending that could be putting a little bit of pressure on the market. So this has been the safe haven trade. It has not broken down as of yet, continues to make higher highs, higher lows. You're also seeing the same type of reaction when it comes to silver as well, crossing or getting close to crossing that 50 level if you're looking at the COMEX contract. And so this metals trade continues to get a lot of favorability. Not only gold, not only silver, look at platinum, look at palladium, look at copper. Pretty much every single metal has their own story, but also is catching some positive inflows over the last couple of weeks. And let's see if that's going to continue here.
Okay, and so last but not least, as we're keeping our eye on everything, of course, you're watching, KG. I mean, walk us through some chip levels you're watching as well as just overall levels you're watching in the S&P 500, as I know you typically give Diane great targets that I'm always listening to. So walk us through some levels you're watching for today and obviously this week.
Yeah, just given the backdrop, especially if you're looking at the E-mini S&P 500 futures, we did pretty much touch the 50-day moving average. From a technical standpoint, you're looking for a little bit of a retracement or a bounce to the upside here. From a flow standpoint, 6,700 to the upside. To the downside, 6,550. And keep that on your radar, Jenny. Those are actually still being priced fairly aggressively. Put skew is still being put into the market, and that's where the risk comes in at the open. Do we actually have sellers coming into the strength right now to really try to offload some of that risk even more? So a very wide range, some downside protection still being bought. Let's see if we're able to maintain these levels or even advance to that 6,700 level by the end of today's close.
Yeah, a lot to keep on our radar this week, as I'm sure we will be, of course, revisiting a lot of these targets because banks really kick off tomorrow, truly, but a lot of volatility to get through this week and hopefully some easing of all of the geopolitical tensions that are really at the center stage still of the macro conversation. So appreciate it, Kevin Green, of course, host for contributor here for the Schwab Network.